Good, man. All good. It's a pleasure to have you. I've been following your work for a long time, and
Thanks,
for
man.
if I'm doing an introduction for you, like I didn't really know where to start because you're most recently with the Ringer, which
Yep.
everyone knows the Ringer, but I'm trying to think of when you first came into my consciousness. It might have been back with like the Solid Verbal guys. You were doing a lot of work with them, right? Like
Uh,
SB Nation articles, all that kind of stuff.
yeah, I used to work at SB Nation doing college football stuff for them. So that's kind of where I got my start on the college football internet writing a Northwestern sports blog and
Okay.
for SB Nation. And the I think attending so many Northwestern football games made me want to go see other team stadiums. So that's the genesis of my project.
I think I remember you going to like a Rose Bowl with Ty and Dan back in the day. Is that right? Like you guys were all in a house like somewhere and
Oh, we
for a
went
bowl
to
game?
the 2016 College Football National Championship in a big
That's what it was.
Airbnb together, and saw Alabama win. Uh, yeah, a very. I'm not sure if Airbnb was a thing yet at that point, but I feel like there were like 11 bloggers in a weird house in Arizona.
That hit me like yesterday. I was like, wait, he was wearing like you guys were having a blast that weekend. You're tweeting out like what you're wearing to the games and stuff, and it just looked like a lot of fun. Your latest endeavor is Road Rodge. You are doing a
Yeah,
college football road trip all season long. You kind of stepped away from the traditional journalism or blogging or whatever you want to call it.
yeah,
And you've been to 28 games now on the
exactly.
season.
Yep, nailed it. 28, and Virginia Tech was number 27.
That's
uh,
right. That's right.
getting you set up for the segue. But yeah, I'm making videos. I'm putting stuff on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, that means you know that YouTube exists, and you can go over to Rodge is the handle. But yeah, I'm just like putting out videos. But really, more than anything, I'm just kind of enjoying myself.
Yeah, well,
I've been
that's what
to
I wanted
28
to
college
ask you.
football games. Yeah, go for it.
Like how did this come about? What made you decide to leave it all behind and just go out on a road trip? I know you're like married and have a dog and everything like that, but
Two dogs.
two dogs. So what made you want to do this and like how are you doing this?
So mainly it was just like a realization I've had over the last few years that like even though I was professionally employed writing about college football, I had never been to any of the places that I was writing about. And college football is such a sport that's about literally the places. Like like just going to Virginia Tech last week, like so much of it is like you have to realize the pocket of the world that it's in and what surrounds it and like it's not something you get from just turning on the TV at Thursday night. And I was writing about it mainly from my couch. I was blogging from home, or every once in a while I get to go to a national championship game or something like that, and which is awesome, but also not the same as like a home game in at a school stadium. The thing that really inspired me was there was a guy who did it last year, Ben Chase, who I think he went to 78 games. I'm not trying to break his record or anything, but I was just like, I'm going to take a road trip. I'm going to do this. I'm going to drive around the country, see as many games as I can. And so my wife was like, yeah, go ahead, go for it. Like it sounds like this is something you're excited about. So when you're excited about things, they tend to be good. So I did it, and I've been driving around. If you are looking now, you can see that I'm in a very generic hotel room in the Quad Cities of either Iowa or I think I'm in Illinois.
Okay.
Um,
And can we talk
it's
about your shirt for a second? Because you've
Yeah,
got you've got a
sorry
West
about that.
Virginia shirt. I've got my
Sorry about that.
Virginia Tech on.
Yeah, I sorry about that. It's just what I grabbed out of my
Do you
bag
just
when
have
I
like a whole bag of like home field shirts or something?
more or less, yeah. I have they don't have a shirt for every game I'm going to, but I asked them if they could give me a shirt for every time that they make a shirt for the home team. So yeah, but the funny thing is, I already owned a Virginia Tech home field um, crew neck. Like I already had that as part of my collection, so they didn't need to give me one, which is really helpful because the logistics of them shipping shirts to me on the road has been iffy. They
I
have
can imagine.
they have a lot of orders coming in, and I don't know where I will be on a night to night basis. So the Virginia Tech shirt I'm wearing in my Virginia Tech stuff that I haven't fully posted yet with the fighting gobblers with the turkey's head on them. That was a shirt that I'd owned for several years because I really like that turkey. But I never gotten a chance to bring it to its spiritual home until Thursday. That
Well,
Virginia Tech shirt I'd worn it at like Thanksgiving, and I would sometimes just wear it randomly around New York. But it finally got to come to Blacksburg on Thursday.
yeah, and that's the main reason you're on the show. Though I have loved your work,
I appreciate.
having a reason to have you here and talk about your experience in Blacksburg is why I reached out to you. And let's just talk about a little bit about the game. What did you think of Blacksburg? How was your experience with Lane Stadium and everything around it?
So here's the funny thing about going to all these games. Like I said, it's 28 games. Um, to do that in 7 and 8, 9 weeks, 9 weeks, that means a lot of weeknight games. And basically, the experience with attending a game at most schools on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is like you get there, um, and invariably someone at the tailgate will tell you, "Oh, like it's a shame you came to see us on a Thursday night because you know we do so much better on Saturdays. I normally come to the game with my wife and kids, but they're like my kids have school tomorrow. I couldn't bring them out until midnight tonight. You people at Virginia Tech, you do not ascribe to that belief system.
No.
The Virginia Tech Stadium was fully packed on Thursday night for a game that like people weren't feeling great about either. And not only was I told it's okay that you came here on Thursday night, people were like, we invented Thursday nights. This is what we do best. And if you told me that online, I would have rolled my eyes. But after seeing it in person, I wholeheartedly agree.
Yes.
Just the way that like everyone around this, like the person I was staying with was like, yeah, like my boss and my boss's boss are both Virginia Tech grads, so pretty much everyone has the whole afternoon off. We're all going to be in the tailgate lots. You get there at 3 o'clock and they're already going pretty hard. And most schools just don't have that energy for weeknights. I don't know if there was some debate about whether the students had off.
I know personally one student that did have off. I don't know if every single student was off of their classes. A lot of professors would give it back in the day when I was there. They would give it off if you had a late class, but some are sticklers and wouldn't do that. But I think a lot of the students, if they did have class, they weren't there. It started
Yeah.
early. It started early, and I'm so glad you did get to experience the Thursday night because it's not a very unique Virginia Tech thing, but it means a lot to Virginia Tech. And many of our fans make a point to take off work either on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday to make it down. And it was a good game for you to attend because you're right. From a national perspective, going into that game, you're talking about Syracuse and Virginia Tech, two middling
Yeah.
teams this year, and even for the last couple years. And the place was full. It might have not been a technical sellout, but it was very full. It was very loud. The weather was perfect. Did you get a chance to do any tailgating or walking around talking? I think I saw you like watching the Hokie Walk or the band or something.
Yeah, I saw a lot of stuff. So first of all, also not just like the perfect night, but like you're right, it was in the 70s, and it was like also it's peak leaf season. I don't know what's going on with my hair here.
Oh, you look perfect, Raj. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it was peak leaf season. Like, and I've been telling everyone I can talk to that like the like Blue Ridge region of the country is my favorite one to drive through, and I've been telling people that since September when I went to West Virginia. But like, oh man, it was just perfect. The reds and the yellows up on the mountains around Blacksburg, and the sunset hits right before the game. Tailgating, yeah, I met up with some of my followers like in the lots around the stadium, and I saw like you said, I saw the Hokie Walk. I saw the band, the Corps Cadets band playing Enter Sandman on their glockenspiels. and that made me very happy. Um, I, I I was very thrown off before the game by I think your cannon is bigger than some schools' cannons. There was a real reverb there. Um,
It's loud. It's very loud.
and yeah, I met people, who had driven in from DC. I met this guy who had driven in from Bluefield. I forget which side of the border he was on, who ended up having nicer seats than the ones that I had access to. So that was awesome. And like, yeah, it was just a different level of weekday pregame than pretty much any other school I've been to this year. Like absolutely. I mean, I can say like with no doubt that it was the most fun I've had at a weeknight game.
Well,
This year.
that's great to hear, dude. Did you get a turkey leg? Let me ask you that, because
I did. I did.
nice,
I didn't
nice.
post pictures of it because they're very unappealing to look at. Watching me go to town on the turkey
Oh, dude,
leg.
it's not something you want to eat in front of like anybody, but you happen to be eating it in front of 60,000 of your closest friends.
Yeah, it's really unmanageable. It's like
Yes,
and it comes out. It was too hot to eat for like a solid like 10 minutes of game time. It was
scorching
just
hot.
like yeah. But it was much better than I expected it to be. I think it was um, like I think my association with eating any amount of large turkey like that isn't sliced is like that it's going to taste like Thanksgiving and it's going to be a little dry. But no, they crushed it with that. And yeah, I looked back at the pictures of it and I was like, I can't. It's just like there's like liquid forming here and like there's pieces of the turkey like hanging off and like sometimes I don't care about how I look when I'm doing things. I am living more or less out of a car with a limited amount of t-shirts. Well, a lot of t-shirts, but like I only have t-shirts. So like I have pretty low standards for myself, but the turkey leg was something I'm keeping private for now. It'll probably end up in like the videos I post over the course of the week, but like yeah, it was pretty grimy.
I've had many over the years. They do taste great, but the amount of grease is
Oh yeah.
so much that like I pick and choose my spots. I don't get them every game because it is an absolute freaking
It,
mess.
it seems like a novelty food. So, like the idea that people at Virginia Tech are eating them regularly, the laid legs, is like it just feels like there have to be better methods of consuming food. And then again, it's probably the best method of consuming food
We
is
need
you're
to,
holding a.
you know how you were saying about grab it's too hot. We need to create like the turkey leg koozie where like you put the bottom of it in like a rubber thing so it collects the grease and keeps your hand off it. Like we could market that.
Yeah, like they have the little tin foil or aluminum foil like around the bottom, and you're just kind of like it's still hot to touch. Um, But yeah, I mean, there have been a lot of innovations in the koozie industry recently. Just the idea of a turkey leg koozie. I mean, the other funny thing about it, and I'm sure people have pointed this out to you, is outside of Texas, I don't think anybody else consumes their mascot during the course of the game.
I had never thought of that. That never occurred to me that we're eating the hokey bird.
Yeah, I mean, it like RIP to the Hokey Bird. And meanwhile, the Hokey Bird is like walking up through the stands and smiling, and like there are people chowing down on his friends. And like it's not like removed. It's not like if you're eating a burger, it is just this amount of meat, and it could come from a cow or anything. But that turkey leg, you're like, oh, I see that is part of a larger turkey. And the Hokey Bird is standing there with his smile on his face, looking around the stadium, and I don't know how he handles that mentally.
It's a lot. Let's move to the game real quick because while you're doing this and it's more of an experience of
Yeah,
the atmospheres and the places, are you still analyzing the football and were you impressed with how we came out on Thursday night?
I mean, Yeah, part of me wants to just say it was an atmosphere that like I could not play in that atmosphere, and Syracuse obviously could not either. But everyone around me was just kind of like stunned. Like we're normally not getting like 7 yards every rush on first down all night long. I forget what the yardage. I believe it was like 300 to 0 in yardage. I think I
Yeah,
looked up.
you are pretty much on point there. It was 0 yards for Syracuse
I
rushing.
looked up on the scoreboard and saw the 0, and I'm like, you normally don't leave the game and see a 0.
Right.
And it's probably um, one of the games that I had the least idea of what was going on just because of the amount of alcohol I was consuming beforehand. Because I knew I wasn't driving after the game, and like I said, you guys do it well. But it felt like, in many ways, I got the gist of it. But
Yeah.
the
I'll give you a lead
it's
in. How about this? It was 23-0 midway through the second quarter. And right there, it was a sense it was over. That like Syracuse just couldn't do anything on offense. Oh, sorry.
yeah, I've got to turn off an alarm that I forgot about. Sorry about that.
That's okay, Raj. Yeah, Syracuse just
Talk,
couldn't
I
do
can hear you.
anything on offense. They punted on their first 5 drives,
Yep.
and we scored on our first 6 drives.
Yeah.
And so it was feeling good. And normally, whenever Tech might get a little bit of a lead these last couple of years, it's like, well, when's the shoe going to drop?
Didn't
And
drop.
and it didn't drop, and it never really felt like it was going to drop.
No, it was really just a euphoric experience, start to finish. And I mean, you've got to wonder, like how. I mean, it's stupid, but like how much more used to this experience and this environment, like playing on a Thursday is a bit of a weird thing to do. Like you have to change your game prep all week. You have to, do things differently for the players. And they seemed at home, and Syracuse looked entirely lost all night
Yeah.
long. Um, and if you're going to make Thursday nights your thing, and then you're going to come out on Thursday night and the other team does not look like it knows where it is, maybe that's a factor.
Yeah. And you picked the best Thursday night game to come to in 7 years, because I don't think we had won at home on Thursday night since 2016. Another game I attended against Miami, but we don't play on Thursday night every season, but we played
Yeah, I
on a
got that.
number of them at home, and we haven't won because Tech has been down the last since 2016 when we went to the ACC title game. It's
Yeah.
been a bit. So you picked a fantastic game. Did you do anything after the game? Did you go downtown? Did you just crash?
Yeah, I was staying with one of my followers, like reached out and said, "Hey, I've got a spot for you." So I pretty much fell asleep in his car, uh, and then had a nice drive back. Part of the thing about my trip is that I am driving everywhere. So I don't always get to go all in on the experience like I did when I had a place to stay, um, like that night. So sorry that it's boring, but
No. I mean, you
I
said
was
you
like,
drank a ton during the day because you didn't have to drive yourself personally. So you got to enjoy the day, and probably
I
did you
got
have
to
some
enjoy
bourbon?
it. Yeah, I went to a tailgate that had at least 5 different bourbons that I had never seen before, and I didn't consume all of them. But I'm not a I wasn't fully aware of the different flavors that could be involved. I was like, oh, this didn't make me instantly recoil with when I consumed it. That's not the type of whiskey I normally drink. Um, so that was really awesome. And yeah, I feel like I lived up to the experience. Some parts. The beauty of filming things is that the filming is not foggy, just my memory.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to get a couple questions in before you cut
Sure.
out, about your trip in general. Are you keeping a ranking system or some type of tracking of all the games you're going to? I know you're doing the videos and everything, but like when you do these spots, because I know you've been on pregame shows and postgame shows and whatever, like, and people say, what's the best place you've been to? Like, are you keeping a journal like of the ranks?
I don't have an official ranking system. I know which ones are my favorite, but also I keep on coming up with like like I can tell people that Virginia Tech was the best weeknight game that I went to, and it's entirely true. And I feel like that speaks to the experience, like in its own right. Um, so I guess I'm like coming up with little terms I have for each school for what they're good at, like
Okay.
that in my head, like then I don't have to keep re-ranking like the best every time, because like I keep saying the best game I went to and the best like place I saw was when I watched Oklahoma play Texas uh, in the Red River game at the Cotton Bowl, which is like its own little strange, its own enormous strange world. Like they play at the Texas State Fair. It's not a home game for anybody. There's all this weird food that's being eaten. It's an awesome place. But I say that's the best thing I've ever been to. But then I'm additionally able to say the best home game I went to was another game.
Yeah.
So like I don't have an official ranking system. That would probably involve me having to say which one is the worst, which I will not do on camera.
Right. Well, I mean, you can describe them in different ways too, because I was going to say, like, you met a lot of fan bases over this trip. Like, what would be like the most endearing fan base you met? And I'm not let's just go outside of Virginia Tech, so you don't have to use us. Like, was there any particular fan base where you're like, wow, those people were great?
That's a great question. I keep saying that the best time I had was at West Virginia and Morgantown. I don't know if that's a contentious opinion to have among Virginia Tech. I feel like you don't have to play each other anymore, but there's always some weird opinions about neighbors.
Yep.
But I saw them playing Pitt back way in the early part of the season.
Okay. Backyard brawl. Nice.
And it was a night game against a rival that they hadn't played at home in a decade, and Pitt still had Phil Dracovic at quarterback, and he's just really terrible. And they dominated. And yeah, that's the most fun I've had around a group of people all year long, because
they're big drinkers down there. The whole region likes to drink a lot, and Morgantown definitely likes to get after it. I saw on your BYU video they gave you this like long donut to eat. You talked about the turkey leg. Like what is like the best thing you've eaten since you've been on this trip?
I'm going to be honest. The turkey leg might be the best in-stadium food I've had.
Wow.
Like,
nice.
Like it was like some element of like the uniqueness of it, and it was actually really good. And again, I honestly I'm generally not drunk at the games, but that has to be a factor into me thinking it was extremely delicious, right? Well, you eat them pretty routinely, so clearly like it's a thing you go back to.
Oh, it's tasty. Yeah, they're very, very good. Yeah.
You're not just doing it as a bit, which like I think I started out doing it as a bit, and then it kind of morphed into not a bit.
If they didn't taste good, we wouldn't go back, because it, as we described, it's like nasty. Like it's a messy experience.
I got it pretty close to the bone, which had to be really upsetting for my seatmates to be around. But like, yeah, that I honestly, I think the best food I've eaten in a stadium, that has to be close to the top. The best tailgate was LSU.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah, I got a lot of Louisiana flavors that day, and it was awesome. And
did you have alligator?
No, the only place I've had alligator was when I saw Utah playing Florida, because when you play Florida, you have to have an alligator prepared. So some guy there like got an alligator shipped to him and then roasted or smoked it, and it tasted like food. It didn't have like, honestly, I was expecting it to have more like gator twang to it. Mm-hmm. And it really just tasted more like, sort of a generic smoked like chicken or smoked turkey or something like that.
What was the scariest group of fans? Like, just be like, oh, these people, like, I'm kind of terrified of what might happen later.
The least happy fans were the Ohio State fans.
Really?
They were just bad the whole time, and they won a game to remain undefeated and are considered the number one team in the country by a lot of people. And they were just upset the whole time. Like they win the game. It's like the biggest game of the year. It's like it was, I think, number 3 versus number 5 against Penn State. I saw them. They had game day there. They had Big Noon Saturday there. And after the game, everyone's like, "We're not going to beat Michigan like that." And I'm like, you're undefeated. Why are you so bad? The scariest. I don't think I feared for my health at any point in this trip.
Or maybe just intimidating, like an intimidating environment.
That's a good question. I'll have to.
Like, I would imagine LSU is pretty high up there.
Oh, like intimidating for the opponent? Yeah, LSU at night. Virginia Tech felt. I mean, nobody else plays metal either. Like that really helps. I'm not pandering. I'm not pandering, I swear. But like, yeah, that was like I felt the chills there when you guys had it going. LSU at night. I don't know, man. It's just every stadium I go to at night feels particularly like they did it's just the level of anticipation that people have been waiting to get out all day. So I've just named you a bunch of night games that I've been to.
No,
LSU, you guys, Morgantown was also a night game.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
I don't think that'll be true for the MAC games I go to this week, though.
You just went to a snow game. You were at an NAIA Game of the Year in Iowa, right?
Yeah. I asked my followers which game to go to after that's what I do every week. After the Ohio State game, I felt the need to get off the beaten path a little bit after seeing Ohio State win that game and still end up mad. So I went to this game in Northwest Iowa between the number 1 and the number 3 teams in the country and the last 2 defending national champions. Northwestern College in Iowa, which won the national championship last year, and Morningside, which has won 3 of the last 5. And I went there just because the game was good. And they said in the forecast, it will snow, but I don't think anyone expected it to snow that much. Like,
I liked your one tweet where you were like, they said it's supposed to snow today. I don't know when it's supposed to come down. And you're like covered in snow.
Yeah, there was snow up in my beard, like just like hanging on there. My hat and the top of my head were covered. It was really tough tweeting out there. I was really working harder than the football players for sure.
I'm surprised you had like service.
Well. Yeah. Well, the service was really bad in Blacksburg.
Oh, it was so bad. It was so bad.
Oh, I'm not sure if I've shouted out App State here. App State was another awesome one. I love mountains.
I really want to go to a game.
Huge mountains fan. Yeah. But in Iowa, I had service because, there's only 3,000 people at the game.
True.
And it was an entirely different world, but the people were just they've been waiting for this game between these 2 teams all year long. And they were like just ready to go from the morning, but like they were also excited to have me in a way that I don't think anyone else has been, because like they don't get a lot of outsiders, because not a lot of people hear about their programs, and they're off several hours away from any interstates in Iowa. So they were just extremely prepared to show me a very good time. And they gave me a lot of soup because it was 20 degrees outside. And
you managed to find a place that was harder to get to than Blacksburg.
Yeah, you guys aren't that far from the interstate.
Yeah, it's true. Not since the interchange came in 20 years back, that's for sure.
No, the less mountains though. In Iowa, I would say they have like no elevation at all. So that, as a huge mountain enthusiast,
yes,
that was the one downside, driving past corn for several. And I'm on the other side of the river from Iowa right now, but yesterday I drove 5 hours across Iowa, and you kind of get the gist in the first 20 minutes.
What I do love the fact that you're doing this choose your own adventure kind of thing. Like you have people vote And you guys, like guys listening, like make sure you're checking out Road Rodge on YouTube. Make sure you're checking out at Rodger. I don't know how you got the handle at Rodger. You must have been the first person on Twitter ever after Jack.
I, I have a slightly misspelled name. It made it a lot easier. Rodger. You see, all the other Rodgers are Roger.
Well,
like
for Aaron Rodgers.
Rodger Clem. Well, yeah, but that's not his
Twitter
handle.
It's not his first
name. It's not
name.
his first name. And it has an S in it, Rodger. So like, like Rodger Clemens, Roger Maris, etc. I don't know why I went two baseball guys, but both
especially one that's very dead or old. Yes.
I don't know. They were just the first ones I could think of. But Roger, I'm Rodger, so that's what you should look for.
It's a great handle.
There was one like spam account which had Rodger, and in like 2017 or so, I told Twitter, "Hey, this is very clearly a spam account," and they got rid of it, and I swooped in.
But I'm so glad that your people that vote, all the followers and everything, they chose to send you to that NAIA game because it was paired with Virginia Tech. Because it was either that or I forget what the other game was, and then Georgia Southern or something.
It was Georgia State, Georgia Southern was the other Thursday night game. And honestly, like those are two good teams. It's like a rivalry in Georgia. Like I was kind of like, part of me was feeling bummed I didn't get to go see that. I was like on Wednesday, I was like, I don't know, the Virginia Tech team isn't very good. Syracuse isn't very good. Like maybe I kind of wish I got to the other game. That like washed away really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I had no FOMO that night. And I'm really glad I got to go to Virginia Tech too.
I promise I'm going to let you hang up in 1 second. I just wanted to ask you about when you're traveling, you used to be like, you were covering this sport and like tracking who's good and all this stuff. How are you keeping up with that aspect? Podcasts, like who do you like to listen to? That kind of thing.
I have a couple of podcasts I listen to, but broadly, I'm not watching most college football games, which is a real big shift to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because in my job, I would just spend 13 hours a day watching college football every Saturday. Multiple screens, Twitter refreshing for 13 straight hours. And now I'm just like, I'm going to see a game. If it's a morning game, I'll check out the night ones. But a lot of the time I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, because you want to be out with the people and like maybe in a bar or somewhere else hanging out.
Very different way of understanding the sport. Like I'm definitely behind on that. I listened to 3 podcasts in the car. Like you said, Solid Verbal, Split Zone Duo, and Shutdown Fullcast, which is more
I knew you were going to say Fullcast. I knew that was going to be on the list, but I was
curious. They're mainly people I've worked with at some point in time. But like between those 3 looks at the sport, like I feel like I got a pretty decent like summary of what happened from Shutdown Fullcast, from the Fullcast like joking about it to like Split Zone Duo gives like pretty analytical insights into the games, and it's I'd say I get a pretty decent picture because I'm also in the car like 20 hours a week, so that gives me enough time to catch up on podcasts.
Yeah, because I was thinking like if I try
it's the most podcasts I've ever listened to. I'm generally not a podcast listener, but like I am locked in this year.
Yeah, I was thinking if I ask him like what his playoff 4 is right now, like it might not be. It's not going to be as expert as you would have been in years past.
No, I legitimately don't have an answer for you. One of Ohio State and Michigan. I want both of them in.
Georgia.
I would say Georgia. I'd say Georgia seems like a pretty solid answer. I was really excited about Washington.
They've been playing some tight ones lately.
Yeah. And I'm going to see them play Washington State in the last week of the season.
Oh, that's awesome. Apple Cup.
Yeah. Last one.
Yeah.
That's I'm going to try to see so this week I'm going to go to the last game between Oklahoma and Oklahoma State.
That's a great game.
And then the last games between the teams in Oregon and Washington that are kind of getting ditched by the rivalry. So
and I'm hoping that like these aren't like Apple Cup, even if they're in different conferences, it should still happen out of conference. We hope, right?
It might. We don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, Oklahoma State has been pretty clear. We don't want any part of this if you're leaving the conference. Right. Like you're ditching us, so go to hell.
That's so sad, man.
It's a bummer. That's why I'm glad I'm getting out there this year, and I didn't choose to wait to do this.
All right, so I asked you about the podcast. What are you listening to musically? Like, what's your go-to music playlist? You classic rock guy, you hip hop guy? I know there's the Fetty Whopping thing that you've always had. Yeah. You saw Fetty Whopping this year, right?
Didn't you? It was 1738. Purdue lost to Wisconsin. Yeah, that was the gag is that when a score is 1738, I tweet about it because that's. I would say that so the car has Sirius in it. It's a rental car, and I just like flip through. Like I have like 2 classic rock stations on there, 3 hip hop stations on there. I have the pop station, which like sometimes you need, but the key is there's like they have the 90s and the 2000 stations, and you really need the throwback jams when you're just mindlessly driving for hours and hours and hours and hours. Like the boy bands, the Ja Rule era hip hop songs are really clutch. But yeah,
I'll save you my Ja Rule impression for another time.
Can't wait. But seriously, the just having a station that's just, and it's oddly been weird. They have like, I don't think I had listened to the Beatles in many, many years, but like, I feel like we used to listen to it in the car on road trips when I was a kid, and they have a Beatles channel, and I don't know, something about it feels right when I'm just driving to have like songs that I listened to when I was a child in a car. Yeah. So maybe that explains the 90s station too.
Well, man, thank you so much for spending all this time with me and just giving me an insight into your trip.
No problem.
You're heading to Stillwater next?
Not next. That's where I'm headed on Saturday, but I have 3 games to go to before that.
Oh my God. What are the games this week?
So I'm going to the MAC games in Ohio Tuesday and Wednesday.
Okay.
We're still debating whether this should be the plan, but there's a game in Wyoming on Friday night, night game in Wyoming, and it might be too long of a drive to do that. And then Oklahoma State, it's about 10 hours from Laramie to Stillwater, but
it's closer than I would have thought, actually.
The University of Wyoming is located in the southeastern corner of Wyoming.
Okay.
So it's pretty close to the border with Nebraska. So to get to Oklahoma, I'm more or less just driving all the way across. Well, I'll need to look at the map, but it's not as far as you'd think. There was another part of me that wanted to do there's a game in Lubbock on Thursday, and I was very surprised. TCU Texas Tech in Lubbock. I'm not going to it; it's too far. But like, I was surprised by how close Lubbock, Texas is to Laramie, Wyoming. I was really? Like, those seem like different parts of the world, but Lubbock is all the way in the northwest of Texas, and Laramie is all the way in the southeast. So I'm learning a lot about the geography of the country. I didn't know that Blacksburg was 3 hours away from so many places. It's 3 hours away from, so far as I can tell, every place is 3 hours from.
Yeah, it's 3 hours from every place except for like DC and where I live, but like Charlotte, a lot of places in Tennessee. Like, there's a nice 3 hour radius.
Yeah, but I'd never really been in that part of that in southwestern Virginia. Like, I had never been there, and it's gorgeous, and I had a great time there. And so you said thank you for having me on, but like, thanks to all the Virginia Tech people for showing me a good time on Thursday.
Nice, dude. And I wish you luck. Hopefully, hey, maybe you'll break that dude's record for 78 games. If you're going to 4 this week.
I'm not going to get close, but I think I'm going to get to around 60.
Okay.
I think I'm going to get to around 60 when we throw in the bowls.
That's awesome, man. That is awesome.
I think.
Do Do you need to shout out any sponsors right now while you're on the show?
Hopefield Apparel. It's now a Road Rodge sponsored by Money Lion, but
Okay.
I'm not going to do the whole pitch on here. But yeah, if you look up Road Rodge, RODGEE on pretty much every platform, I'm there. So go find my videos and stuff.
Sweet, man. Thank you again for coming on.
I'll shoot over the Virginia Tech one when I get it up.
Nice. I like it, dude. You have a good day and a safe driving all season long. Good luck this week, man.
Thanks for having me, Pete.
Later. Wow, that was awesome. Thank you to Rodger Sherman for coming on my show. It's someone I've followed a long time, and I've had now Spencer Hall with me and Rob earlier in the year, and now we've had Rodger Sherman. So this has been a very cool like college football nerd year for me so far with the podcast.